School wholeheartedly. She especially enjoys math and music, and she will be performing in our Christmas musical this Thursday night. She is a shining star both in and outside of school. She loves playing basketball and spending time on her iPod. Peyton was also featured in the trailer for Gullah Gullah The Portal, a newly re-imaged project being developed by the family behind the original Gullah Gullah Island television show, a remarkable accomplishment for such a young student. Peyton is an outstanding scholar, a role model for her peers, and a joy to work with each day. Watching her grow has been an honor, and I am confident she will continue to work hard, follow her dreams, and achieve great things. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Miss Peyton Cohen.
Good evening. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peyton, and a job well done. Next, we'll have recognition of America's Healthiest Schools by Mr. Keith Brown.
Good evening, Chairman Moore. Good evening, Dr. Giles, board members, district staff, honored guests. Tell you a little bit about the award that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. It's the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. It is a national movement where they try to examine current practices across all areas, including instruction, support, improvement, special education, mental health, and academics. And they determine to the extent which these practices need to be continued, discontinued, or analyzed for better production with our students. These assessments include 5 surveys that our teachers do every single year. The Healthy Schools Assessment, a Thriving Schools Integrated Assessment, a Healthy Schools Assessment, and then the America's Healthiest School Readiness, and then a School Tool Rise, which is resilience in school experiences or environments. And so the areas that they have to choose from where they can choose to concentrate their efforts during the course of a year: family and community engagement, nutrition and food access, physical education and activity, health education, local school wellness policies, social emotional health, tobacco-free schools, which also includes the vape, school health services, and staff well-being. And so in the past 7 years, we had 1 school that applied and got that, and the next year we had 2, the next year we had 4, then 11, and then 14. And I'm pleased to announce that this year all 19 schools in Georgetown County were recognized as one of America's healthiest schools using one or more of the criteria that were listed above. In the past 7 years, also up to date, we have written and received grants for health, PE, physical activity programs during, before, and after school programs in the total amount of $344,000. So I'm going to recognize, if they will have the PE teachers and the principals, assistant principals that are here, if they'll come up, if you guys wouldn't mind coming down and greeting them, and then we'll take a group picture afterward. All of our folks are here, are maybe not be able to be here tonight. Some are coaching, some are traveling, some are family. Things that they have to attend to. From Andrews Elementary School, Mr. Hayden Dawson and Mr. Ronald Moore. This way once more. Yeah, and you do it, shake the board's hand. Shake the board's hand all the way down. At Andrews High, Scott Durham, Richie Poston, and Joey Wiesner, and their administration. It did. I'll get to them. Rosemary Middle School, Kimberly Griffith and Michael Stapleton. At Sampit Elementary, Mr. Joel Sapp. At Carvers Bay High School, Matthew Richard and Kyle Bach. Also a shout out to Mr. Richard on an outstanding season at Carvers Bay High School in football. Carvers Bay Middle, Mr. Nicholas DeJean. He is recovering from some surgery, but his principal is here. At Browns Ferry Elementary, who also doubles over at Plantersville Elementary, Mr. Anthony Lorenzo. At Pleasant Hill Elementary, Nicole Watts. Georgetown High School, not sure who all might be here. Oh.
Thank you.
Miss Whitney Ramsey and staff. Okay. At Georgetown Middle, Jared Carlson and Gene Russell. Maryville Elementary, Colin Russell. At Kensington Elementary, Mr. Nick Dunk. At McDonald Elementary, Mr. John Fullerton. At Waccamaw Elementary, Mr. Zach Steins. And Miss Shannon Dupree. Good. Costa Montessori, not able to be here tonight, but the principal is here. John Adkins. At Waccamaw Intermediate, Rebecca Carrero and Mr. Alan Hatcher. At Waccamaw Middle, Mr. Kenneth McGyver, who is coaching wrestling tonight. At Waccamaw High School, Mr. Don Williams, Mr. Jeff Gregory, and Mr. Barry Fogel. And if all our PE teachers would come back and stand behind the board members, we'll get a group photo.
Or on the top step. First step or the second step.
Kristen, if we didn't have a PE teacher,
Can I get the two of you to go to the other end? On three. 1, 2, 3. Again on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you and congratulations.
Mr. Brown, do I get to keep this now?
You better ask them to the middle, they brought it and shared it.
Oh, yeah, I do, don't I? I love to see the celebrations.
Y'all can't leave.
It's a Christmas spirit. I'm just not ready. Yeah, no.
I really remember.
I still don't have my house decorated.
2 rings on
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to Walmart, pick up some stuff and finish, put my trolley and stuff in.
Oh, thank you.
So we didn't get any cards, did we?
Are your kids good?
Good.
Roll right along.
Again, congratulations to everyone that was awarded tonight. We will now move on with our meeting. There being no public comments or requests made tonight, we'll skip over that and move down to the approval of our minutes from November the 18th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any question? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? Thank you very much. Minutes are accepted. We will now adopt the agenda for tonight. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any question? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? Thank you very much. The agenda has been adopted. Now we are down to our information items. The Georgetown County School District Procurement Code, Ms. Christy Kibler and Ms. Vicki Williams.
Chairman Moore, Dr. Giles, members of the board, I'm excited to come to you tonight and go through this 98-page document with you. Tonight I bring to you as an information item GCSD's procurement code with revisions based on the 2021 model school district procurement code. Revisions were completed by Ms. Vicki Williams and Ms. Lisa Johnson and have been reviewed by our legal counsel prior to tonight's meeting. Before discussing the revisions to our current procurement code, I do want to briefly review South Carolina Code Section 11-35-5340 and Regulation 19445.3000, which serves as the guiding framework for those revisions. But I will tell you, I'm not going through this 98-page document.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Instead, I did create a 11-slide kind of Google slide just to hit the highlights of the major things that Ms. Williams, Ms. Johnson, and Mr. Regal, our attorney, kind of guided us as to what we needed to hit on in tonight's presentation. So we'll start with the procurement requirements for large districts. Any school district with annual expenditures over $75 million must comply with Chapter 35, Title 11 of South Carolina law, and the expenditures must be reported to the Director of the Division of Procurement Services within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year end. A district may be exempt from the Consolidated Procurement Code if it has its own procurement code that is, in the written opinion of the division, substantially similar to the state code. And that's the key word tonight, is substantially similar. And even if exempt, the school district subject to the Consolidated Procurement Code does state that districts must undergo a procurement audit every 3 years by an approved firm, and that all audits and internal review costs are paid by the district. So that is basically what I was asked to cover that with you. Moving forward, as we look at the school district procurement code model, any school district, as I already stated, this says some of the same stuff with annual The authority under Section 11-35-5340 is delegated to the Materials Management Officer at the state, and a district's procurement code, as I said previously, has to be substantially similar to the state's consolidated procurement code, though it does not have to be identical. So that is, one of the things we have to keep into consideration. Some of the flexibility with the district code can be in the size of the district, how the district is structured, the staffing resources for the district, the volume and the type of procurement of the district can all have impact on the district's procurement code. But again, it goes back to that same thing, substantially similar to the state's consolidated procurement code. There is some flexibility allowed as long as there are sound procurement practices being preserved. So once we go through the process of reviewing this code, and you have an opportunity to have a first reading approval and a second reading approval of the code, we're then going to send it to the Materials Management Office, who also issued the model procurement code for them to review. That same word again, they are going to make sure that our code is substantially similar to the model code provided by the state. And that model code is what Ms. Williams and then myself and Ms. Johnson used to make sure we were substantially similar to that code. Again, we can adopt the model code exactly as it is, or we can customize it within the realm of those items that I listed previously. Once you pass or approve the procurement code, we're then going to send it in. Right now, it's taken 2 to 3 months to get back the approval. Our hope is to submit it and get back approval as is. There is a chance that we could get back no approval at all because it's not substantially similar, or they could pull out one specific part and say we approve everything but that part, and then I will be coming back to you to discuss and make changes to that part. Once adopted in accordance with law, the district's procurement code has the full force and effect of law. So that's basically the guiding principles behind this model policy and what we kept in mind throughout looking at the revisions. So we were provided with a red line document to go through. It did not say this was what was in your 2008 code and this is what's in the 2021 code. That's what we had to do and look at. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk to you tonight about, is the differences, the major differences. I'm not doing every word difference or every section difference, but I'm going to focus on those major differences. So there were some minor revisions. For example, in our current code, there is an appendix which lists all the definitions. To keep people from having to go to the last 3 pages of the document to the appendix, there have been definitions are now in each of the applicable sections. So Article 5, Article 7, Article 9, and Article 21 now start with definitions that are applicable to that section. The definitions are no different than what was in our previous code, or our current code, I should say, but they're just in a different location, which for me made it a lot easier because I wasn't going back and forth. I was just scrolling up maybe a couple of lines to find definitions if I needed them. So Article 19, Intergovernmental Relations, which is on page 50 of the new procurement code, had 2 sections included within it. Those sections in our new code have been removed, and that is as is stated in the model policy. It now says the district shall comply with Article 19 of Title 11, Chapter 35 of the South Carolina Code of Laws. This is consistent with Section 40. Article 19 applies to all political subdivisions, including school districts. And of note, in compliance with Article 19 of Title 11, Chapter 35, The authority for districts to participate in statewide term contracts is established by the Division of Procurement Services of the State Fiscal Accountability Authority. So that is noted within the draft comments on the red line version. Also, Article 23, which is on page 53, addresses statewide provisions, and it just says that we're going to again comply with Article 23 of Title 11 of Chapter 35 of the South Carolina Code of Laws. So those were kind of some big things when you're looking through and you get to Article 19 and you get to Article 23 and it's just that one line. It's like, okay, what happened? Well, that is what happened. And I felt like I needed to explain that there were sections originally under them and those sections have been removed. So then looking specifically at Article 9, as I was going through the whole document saying, okay, this section, what's there, glaringly to me was the difference in Article 9. Article 9, which is found on pages 28 to 39, looks the most different from the code that we currently have. The words are still there, it's just been kind of separated more. For example, Section 3020 has been broken apart into 3020, 3021, 3023, and 3024. So they took 3020.1.1 and made it into its own section, so that you will see that difference in there. Article 9 of the Model School Procurement Code does mirror Article 9 of the state's Consolidated Procurement Code, both of which are based heavily on the American Bar Association's 2000 Model Procurement Code. When the General Assembly adopted these construction-related provisions in 2008, it directed districts to rely on the American Bar Association's comments and interpretations as persuasive guidance when applying and understanding these requirements. So again, that kind of gives you, it is a mirror of what is in the American Bar Association's guidance. But for me, when I'm writing down, wait, there's no 321, how did we get this? And so I started looking. So the words are still there, they're just kind of sectioned off differently.
We call it job security.
Yes, okay. All right, so Section 710 exemptions found on page 12. This is exactly the same, but I bring this to you for a different matter. At the state level, exemptions issued by the State Fiscal Accountability Authority are not considered part of the Consolidated Procurement Code, and the same principle applies to us as a district. Any exemptions granted by the school board do not automatically become part of the district's procurement code. Instead, if the district wishes to recognize exemptions, which we currently do, they would be documented in our internal operating procedures, which we do have. We have a business services manual and we have an internal procurement document, which they would become a part of. Any exemption to the procurement code, though, must be approved by the board. And as I mentioned, a previous board did approve exemptions. However, we have been given guidance that now is a good time for us to review the district's exemptions. So Ms. Williams and I will be presenting the district's exemption list as an information item at our next board meeting. And then also I want to note that districts are encouraged to adopt Section 710 as presented in the model code. Of note, the Division of Procurement Services will not issue written opinions approving or rejecting local exemptions. They say that approval and rejection of exemptions lies entirely within the elected school board. So when we submit this code, we will not be submitting our exemption list with that. But just because we're going through all this, we do feel like at the same time is an appropriate time to review that exemption list. So that will be forthcoming. Okay, yeah. So the next section, 1524, resident vendor preferences, found on pages 16 to 18. This is brand new. This is not in our current code. This is brand new. South Carolina procurement law includes specific bidder preferences designed to support state-based products, businesses, and labor. The law defines what qualifies as an end product, as well as what it considers manufactured, made, grown, or performed within the state. When evaluating bids, a South Carolina made-in product at their request, is that correct? At the bidder's request, can receive a 7% price adjustment for comparison purposes only, and a United States-made product can receive a 2% adjustment. So this section does go through the resident vendor purposes, and it includes those 6 different areas that I've put up there. Violations or false claims can report in serious penalties, including contract termination, repayment. Certain procurements, such as motor vehicles, construction services, and reverse auctions, are excluded. So it goes through what preferences can apply to and what preferences cannot apply to. I'm going to get Ms. Williams to provide a little bit more context, because she had to help me understand preferences.
Preferences are, they can be good and they can be bad. What these do basically is, when I'm comparing bids and I have a South Carolina vendor that has requested the preference, and I have another South Carolina vendor that did not request it, I would compare those two, and I would give the one, I would subtract 7% off of the one that did request it. So more than likely, that's going to make him a lower bid than the other one. It won't affect what we pay. We still would pay the same thing that they bid. All it does is affect the way that I would award the bid, because of the way that it was, the preferences were requested. Now, if neither one of them requested it, I wouldn't apply it to neither one. Even if I knew it was across the street and it was a South Carolina vendor, I couldn't give it that preference unless they checked the box and requested it. They could just be one like a U.S. preferred vendor. It's made in the United States, but not exactly in South Carolina. So they would get a 2%. I would subtract 2% from their bid for evaluation purposes and compare that to the other bidders. And sometimes it comes in, sometimes it does come in lower. And that in effect costs us more, but it gives South Carolina vendors or U.S. vendors a preference. It doesn't happen in my experience. I haven't seen it happen a whole lot where it costs the entity that I was working for a great amount of money, but I have seen some where it actually made a difference in who was awarded the bid. So, I don't know, I hope that helped explain it. Do
Ms.
y'all have any
Williams?
questions?
May I have, just briefly, I know in other parts of the code, there are procedures where that's kind of used as a tiebreaker, whether it's a local or statewide or a U.S.-based company. Is that the case with this specific section, or is this across the board no matter what?
No, it's across the board. Okay. We have a specific regulations on how to break a tie bid. Now, if both of them requested the preference and they say they were the same amount, they were tied, but one was South Carolina and one was Georgia. We would award to the South Carolina bidder.
All right, thank you.
And this, I will say, this section does clearly point out that it's for comparison purposes only. Like it says that, it restates that multiple times.
And I think Ms. Borden had a question.
Previous experience when there are bids, this follows the guidelines to give the option for them to have that preference during the bidding to have more of a chance of having U.S. made or South Carolina made.
Exactly.
To give them support, sort of along the same lines as like the minority and different, other different things that we try and give opportunities to different vendors. So that's what it's for comparative purposes, to help with the bidding and determination,
Right.
but not the actual price.
Right, exactly.
But since this was new, I did want to make sure that we spent a little bit of time with this section. So continuing on, section 1550. Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that stated in the advertisement for the bid that there can be, that there are these differences?
No, ma'am, in the advertisement, it wouldn't exactly state it. They would have to see the ad and request the bid or go online and download it, and they would see it in the document. as they
Okay,
read
but
it.
we wouldn't advertise it as, here it is. Okay, thank you.
And if I understood you correctly, it's like a box in the
Yeah, just a
application that they would check.
checkbox.
Okay.
So section 1550, small purchase procedures when competitive bidding is required, pages 22 to 23. So the 2021 model code does increase the limit from $2,500 to $10,000 and may be accomplished without securing competitive quotes. The model code increases the limit from $10,000 to $25,000 and requires that non-advertised purchases not exceeding $25,000 must have 3 documented bona fide quotes. And then the advertisement limit is increased from $50,000 to $100,000. So that is a pretty substantial change. This is not an adding of a section or a taking away of a section, but this is a section where there were actual major changes within that section. So then this is where I need your help, which is section 4410, the procurement review panel, which is found on page 49. In paragraph B, districts are encouraged to change the wording such that it has request for reviews go to the chief business official rather than the procurement panel. There is a drafting note included within the model code. Because a district may not have a standing procurement review panel, this change ensures that a full-time employee always exists to receive a request for review. And so it is my recommendation and Ms. Williams' recommendation that we do leave the verbiage in paragraph B to reflect that the request for reviews go to our chief business official. The next part, membership. Clearly within the 2021 model code, it outlines 2 different options for membership of the procurement review panel. Option 1, which is the same as the current format, and I've kind of given you what it would read under right there, that first, the larger one. The panel, it would be composed of what we've been doing the previous couple of meetings. Option 2 would be that the board would serve as the district's procurement review panel. So in preparation for bringing this to you in 2 weeks from now, I kind of need to get some preferences from the board as to keep it in the current format where one person from the board is appointed as the chair and then the superintendent, the chair, the vice chair make nominations, as well as the chief finance officer, or the board could serve as the district's procurement review panel. The one thing I will tell you is that if the board serves as the district's procurement review panel, any person that has an apparent conflict of interest, whether it exists or not, as long as it's apparent, would have to recuse themselves in in anything where there was a conflict of interest. So I kind of just need guidance over the next 2 weeks as to, option 1 or option 2, because when we submit, of course, we can't submit with both options in there. So it's going to kind of be the preference of the board chair and the board as to how we want to go with that. And so I'm going to kind of leave that up to Mr. Moore to let me know within the next week and a half, kind of the preference of the board as to the wording of the membership part of Section 4410.
And we will certainly discuss this further and get back with you within the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
So there are some new parts also at the end of the model, the 2021 model. Our current code ends with the definitions, but now the district procurement regulations are now a part of the district's procurement code. And they're found on page 53 to 93 of the document that I shared with you. At first, I'll be honest, I was confused because I felt like some of the stuff said the same thing. But then I went to read about why were the district procurement regulations at the end. Regulations are separate from the code. They are not integrated into the document. And the reason for that is that under state law, statutes and regulations have important differences from one another. And the only way to maintain the difference is to maintain the distinction of keeping the two separate. So the first part is the code, and the second part is the regulations. So when you look at page 53 to 93, if you're like me, you're going to go, but wait, I think I already read that. You probably did read something similar. But it's the regulation, and many times it's typically, for me, it was making the code a little bit clearer. And then the last thing I want to point out is at the very end of it is attachment B, which is the organizational structure and assignment of authority summary. As I mentioned, it's on page 96 to 98 of the document. At first, the first part of it goes through who the different officials are, and it has some notes about those officials. And then it gives you option 1 and option 2. I want to let you know we have to leave both options in the document that we present, but because currently we are option 1, but it does allow, if there were to be a change in our structure, to go with option 2. So we are currently option 1, where our chief business officer and our chief procurement officer are the same official. So if you look at the flow, it does go from the procurement officer to the chief business official and chief procurement officer to the superintendent. And then after that are the summary of special responsibilities by position, including the responsibility of the board as it applies to procurement and the procurement code, the responsibilities of the superintendent, the responsibilities of the chief business official, the chief procurement officer, and then also pulling in the procurement officer as a designee within that stuff. So that it is all outlined in there. So that is the end of my discussion of the 98 pages. Do we have any questions?
I have a couple of questions, actually. It might just be one. I seem to recall you said that once submitted, it takes a few months to be approved. From a timing perspective, do we approve or vote on the adoption of the code prior to, or?
So when we send to the management office to evaluate it, they actually, within the red line document, provide the letter that we are to send. And within that letter, we have to put the date that the board approved the procurement code.
Okay.
We have to submit not the version that I shared with you. We have to submit that version and the red line version so that they can quickly notate any changes that we made.
One section to other sections that they apply to. Will we able to use every definition that was originally in the definition section?
When I compare the definitions today, all of the definitions are there. Some of the definitions are repeated multiple times, and some of them are only in the section that they apply to. So when you go back and look at 1410, 2610, 2910, and 5010, you'll see definitions that come from that page. But I did cross-reference our current code with those sections to make sure that that all the definitions were there.
It's just so easy to forget.
Right.
If you don't. Okay. And the last question, this may relate to the preference section. How do we include minority contractors? Does the preference have anything to do with minority, or is there a section in here?
No, sir, not exclusively minorities. They can, they would get a preference by checking the box for South Carolina vendor or South Carolina end product, whatever, or service. They would check the same boxes. There's no exclusive minority preference.
Article 21 goes through the assistance to minority businesses, but it does not read the same way that the preference section does.
So there is a section.
There is a section on it.
Could you please clarify, when you were saying that we have moved the limits from 2,500 to 10,000, and then if you can go back to that section, does that mean at that point the limit from 25 to 10,000 may be accomplished without securing competitive quotes? So in other words, somebody that's looking for an item of whatever, they can go up to $10,000 without anybody getting a competitive quote on anything less than 10,000?
But if I understand Ms. Johnson, if I understood Ms. Johnson and I talked about this today, we're not going to change the practices that we have in place.
Okay.
Those practices are going to be continued to be maintained within our business services document and within our internal procurement.
Okay.
This is just within the procurement code. These were the changes that are in that code.
Okay, but we're not
We would have the
changing.
option to do that, but if I understood Ms. Johnson correctly, that as far as depending on what you're referencing, our plan is not to say your limit is now $10,000.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be clear on. Okay, thank you.
And I
explained
think
that
it's
correctly.
important to note, too, that those changes to the limits were based on the legislature's changes to the model codes and what we are supposed to be substantially similar to.
And honestly, the guidance that I was given today was that if we start changing around these increases, that it's very likely that our code we would not get approval for that section.
So it's kind of one of those situations where we can,
Right.
but we don't have to. And as long as we keep our internal requirements the same, it won't trigger any differences.
By position on page 97. It says ratification over $100,000 to the board. Can you explain that to me? I did not have a chance to read the entire thing through. So I'm not sure. I don't remember when I read the previous one, anything about the board and $100,000.
I don't think that was in the current code, but if there should be, and I've never seen one, but if there should be someone that purchased without authority over $100,000, it would be up to the board to ratify them. Right now, it's Ms. Johnson, but it would be up to y'all to do that.
And just out of curiosity, y'all, some of the substantial differences, the questions that you're hearing, are these some of the substantial differences, or these are actual? Okay. Thank you. Any other question? Ms. Kibler, Ms. Williams, thank you guys very much.
Mr. Moore, I just wanted to Ms. Bordner's question, I think that section specifically looks like it references Regulation 2015, which should be on page 56 and 57 of the model code. I think that kind of may clarify that point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Keebler, not bad for 98 pages. Now we will just talk about employee bonuses. Dr. Gauss.
Thank you, Chairman Moore, members of the board. Just on that previous agenda item, I want to thank Ms. Kibler, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Johnson. They spent a substantial amount of time working on those edits and working with our legal counsel to ensure we were in compliance with presenting that. So from me to you, thank you for your work on that. The next agenda item, it was asked that we bring forth a plan or a possible proposal to discuss a Team GCSD employee bonus. If you recall, and for those who are new to the board, over the past couple of years during this time of year, we were in I'll say a different financial situation in a different state as we were able to use ESSER funds to purchase some items, which allowed us to develop a cost savings or a fund balance that was maybe considered more healthier than it is now. However, I recognize that the questions have been asked, and some of you have asked about the possibility of presenting a Team GCSD bonus for this school year. And while we were developing the budget on last year, we did note that if this was something we wanted to consider, it would have to be placed into our budget, our general fund budget, and we did not. However, our finance team, our business services team has put together a proposal for a possibility, and we just share it with you tonight as an information item. And if this is something at your discretion that you would like for us to move forward with in terms of a possible vote, we definitely can add it to an upcoming agenda, but it would be a very, very, very tight window of time for our business services team to turn this around. So what's being presented is a one-time $500 net bonus, and this would be for eligible full-time contract employees. That amount would be a $541.42 gross amount. It would also be a one-time $250 net bonus for temporary and part-time employees paid. So this is very much like last year's bonus and what we were able to do. Maybe not what was 2 years ago, but again, it would be what was done last year. And I will note that the ability to have this funding would mean us taking from our general fund balance to incur these costs, which would include fringe benefits and any related costs that would go with that. Ms. Johnson, you want to add anything, or did I pretty much cover what you would like for us to share in terms of our ability, our financial health, and our ability to cover this bonus? If not, we open to discussion from Mr. Moore and others.
Walker?
Okay, my question was, are there any surrounding districts that we've heard about just possibly doing anything?
I am aware of Horry County considering a substantial bonus in which they are able to provide for part-time and full-time employees.
And I know we can't compete with them, and we don't want to take our budget under, but I always feel personally when you could just show your workers a little love, a little appreciation, I think it goes a long way. Yeah, because I went into several schools and got rushed about what are we doing. And you know, when they say, what are we doing, they put it on us, like we're making a decision. I said, no, it's going to be a decision by the board, and if it's possible, I'm sure everybody would do whatever we can. You know, so.
Where last year's bonus costs are approximately $778,000, a little plus. So this would be budgeting not to exceed, just so we have cushion room, $820,000 to accommodate all of our employees.
Any other question?
I have a question. Is there, I mean, what exactly would it bring on
Johnson, you want?
We ended the year, let me find it. We ended 6/30/25, unassigned fund balance was 26.26 million. As you remember, we actually budgeted for $2 million to come out of fund balance to balance that year's budget, but we were able to make most of that up. I think it did go down a little over 900,000, but that was last year's bonus that we knew was going to come out of fund balance. So before taking out the about 800,000, whatever it ends up being, it's 26.26 million. That was at June 30th, 2025. And we've completed the audit, so I feel pretty comfortable that that's the number.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question. How many operating days does that give us in fund balance, Ms. Johnson?
It probably will leave us close to, I would say, 20 to 25% of our general fund budget, expenditure budget.
I guess my comment is that if we know we're going to plan to do this annually, I have all the respect in the world for what happens in our schools. I think that's extremely important. I think our employees work very hard, and I think they do a great job. I would just like for us to, when we meet, to look at our budget process, that we look forward and see what that would look like if we planned for that to happen, because I think that's really important when we give salaries and that kind of thing. If we could raise salaries or we could do whatever, I want us to be sure that we look forward instead of looking backward. I think that's the real important piece that I see. I think our people work extremely hard, and I think that's important. But I'd like to see us include that in our budget process as we look at next year's budget. I think that's a real important piece. That's a lot of money, a lot of teachers, and I want our employees to understand when you take that money from somewhere, then next year, that's X number of teaching slots or whatever as we look forward. So I really applaud our looking at this very, very carefully, but I do want to see us look forward to that instead of in a backward look at it for next year's budget.
It would be my recommendation that we add it, if that's the the direction we're going in, add it to Friday's retreat meeting for approval. So tonight is an information item, but we certainly could add it as an agenda item for Friday's retreat. And that would give Ms. Johnson and her team
Hopefully.
some cushion.
We've
Let's
got
say
two
it like
payrolls
that,
to-
a little cushion and the ability to make it
Right.
happen before the last payroll date on this side of the new year.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, Mr. Moore, I would make a motion to add that to Friday's retreat as an action item.
And I don't know if we need to make a motion, but if it's necessary,
We can add it.
okay, we'll just go ahead and have it. So I certainly was going to suggest the same thing. And for those who are going to vote against it, that'll give you time to get a brown bag to put on your head during the voting process.
I agree.
But I'm looking forward to awarding our teachers, our staff members, whatever we can. But understanding, like I've always said during budget time of the year, it's the worst time of the year for me because whenever you guys come in front of us and ask for anything, Christmas bonus or whatever else you might need, I feel like we should always be able to say yes. But unfortunately, that isn't how it works. So please know that our heart will always be in the right place, and that is awarding you guys whatever we can. But we're going to certainly look forward to Friday and to make that decision, and hopefully it'll be someone that we all can be happy with and live with. Any other questions, comments? Ms. Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Gals? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we move on to our action items. Our personnel list, the administration recommends approval of our personnel list as presented. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? Thank you very much. The motion carried. And now we're down to board and superintendent comments or requests. I would like to just echo what Dr. Giles said. I wrote it down on my pad here. To Ms. Kibler, Ms. Williams, I know there's been a lot of questions about procurements and stuff like that, and I want to thank you guys for all of your response to those inquiries and concerns that we've been reading about in the paper. We do recognize the work you guys do. We appreciate you very much. And to all the staff members that are still here, our administrators, again, thank you guys for being here tonight. It's always a pleasure seeing you. I don't get to all the schools and to see you in your building, but it's nice to see you here. So please know that because you don't see me, that don't mean you don't have our support. I'll speak for all of us on that because I know if we don't share nothing, we share the fact that we're here to support you guys in whatever it is that you need. So thank you guys for sticking around tonight and watching us do what we attempt to do. No other, Dr. Gauss, you can have the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Again, thank you, board members, to our district staff. We certainly want to say thank you. Principals, thank you for being in attendance. I told you sometimes it matters. Attendance matters, so thank you for all that you do. Today is National Special Education Day, so to Dr. Green, recently named Dr. Strickland, we congratulate her. As well, we thank you for your leadership of our Special Services Department. Today also marks the 50th anniversary of IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And we thank everyone for their support and their effort in the area of working with our students with disabilities. Thank you to our educators, our assistants, our families. It definitely is a joint effort, and we do all that we can to make progress. And we just want to reaffirm our commitment to special education and serving our students with disabilities, but more importantly, all students in Georgetown County School District. Also, just as reminders and notices, Sunday, December 7th at 5 p.m., our Beach Singers will have their winter concert at Winyah Auditorium. Our Beach Singers will also be performing with Miss Mary Ruth Ragland and the chorale, the Winyah Chorale. They've been honored and recognized to participate on Monday and Tuesday evening with them at Winyah Auditorium. Friday is our board retreat here in JBB at 9 a.m. So just a reminder, we'll be here. And just as information, I recognize that over the course of the next 3 weeks, Nobody's counting, but over the course of the next 3 weeks, we realize that our typical routines, our daily instructional schedules may be adjusted for various reasons, but please know that at the utmost and forefront of our concern is continuous improvement in all that we do. Students and staff, I encourage full attendance over the course of the next few days, few weeks. We are approaching exam time in our secondary schools, so we really need everyone fully in attendance and committed to making sure that every day, every minute counts as we're in our instructional activities, but we definitely recognize that we will have adjusted schedules for various activities, and we encourage everyone to attend those activities and performances with our students to celebrate all that they do in the area of the arts and athletics. Just as a final note, I was made aware of Mr. Thad Hawley's passing. He was a former teacher at Georgetown High School, and so our condolences go out to that family as well. Thank you.
No other comments? Then I would ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
No question? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.